Welcome to our channel. We're so glad you're here. If you love inspiring stories, powerful lessons, and thought-provoking content, you've come to the right place. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an exciting update. Join our growing community and let's share the journey together. Emma Thompson was a young woman with dreams far beyond her modest life. At just 23 years old, she worked tirelessly at the Corner Diner, a small and worn-out restaurant tucked in the heart of New York City. The faded paint on the walls and the dim light from the neon open sign reflected the struggles Emma faced daily. Yet despite it all, she always wore a smile. Emma had a special gift, not just for serving customers, but for making them feel valued and seen. Despite long shifts and a meager salary, Emma had one habit that set her apart from others. Every night after finishing her shift, she would gather leftover food from the diner and hand it out to the homeless people she passed on her way home. To her, it was a small gesture of kindness, but to those she helped, it meant the world. One particularly cold evening, rain poured heavily, soaking the streets of the city. Emma hurried home, clutching her worn-out jacket tightly around her. As she walked, she noticed a small figure huddled under a bus stop shelter. It was a young boy, no older than 8, shivering in the rain, his clothes drenched. Her heart ached at the sight. "Hey there," Emma said softly, kneeling beside him. "Are you all right? Where are your parents?" The boy looked up, his face pale and filled with fear. "I don't have anyone," he whispered, his voice trembling. "I'm hungry." Without hesitation, Emma took his hand and led him back to the diner. The rain soaked them both, but she didn't care. Once inside, she wrapped the boy in a warm blanket and served him a steaming bowl of soup. The boy's face lit up as he ate, and for the first time that night, Emma felt warmth in her chest, despite the cold. What Emma didn't realize was that someone had been watching her across the street. A sleek black car was parked on the side, its engine idling softly. Inside sat Nathaniel Harris, a billionaire known for his sharp business acumen and reclusive nature. He had been driving through the area after a stressful day, hoping the quiet streets would help him clear his mind. But then he saw her. At first it was just curiosity. Why was a young woman out in the rain, kneeling beside a homeless boy? But as Nathaniel watched Emma take the boy to the diner and care for him, he couldn't look away. Her actions were so genuine, so selfless, that they struck a chord deep within him. "Who is she?" Nathaniel murmured to himself, his gaze fixed on the diner. For the first time in years, he felt something stir inside him, a sense of wonder and admiration that he couldn't quite explain. He scribbled down the name of the diner and drove away. But the image of Emma stayed with him long after he returned to his luxurious penthouse. In the days that followed, Emma's life continued at a frantic pace. Between juggling double shifts at the diner and caring for her younger brother, who depended on her to pay for his school fees, she barely had time to think about the boy she had helped. But the memory of his smile lingered, giving her the strength to keep going. Meanwhile, Nathaniel couldn't stop thinking about Emma. He had everything money could buy, yet he couldn't shake the image of her, soaked to the bone in the rain, offering warmth and kindness to someone who had nothing. It wasn't just her actions that captivated him, it was the purity of her heart. He had to know more about her. One evening, Nathaniel made a decision. Dressed in a perfectly tailored suit that seemed out of place for a diner, he walked through the door of the Corner Diner. The bell above the door jingled softly, drawing Emma's attention. She was balancing a tray of plates, her hair slightly frizzy from the humidity, but her smile was as radiant as ever. Nathaniel froze for a moment, struck by the familiarity of her face. Emma greeted him warmly, just as she did with all her customers. "Welcome to the Corner Diner. Please have a seat anywhere you like," she said, her voice cheerful despite the weariness in her eyes. Nathaniel chose a corner booth, his gaze following Emma's every move as she worked. She treated everyone with the same kindness he had seen that rainy night. She helped an elderly customer count his change, offered a free refill of coffee to a struggling mother, and even paused to check on a regular who seemed unusually quiet. Every interaction confirmed what Nathaniel already knew. This woman was extraordinary. When his meal was finished, Nathaniel handed Emma the bill without saying much. But as he was about to leave, he slipped an envelope under his plate. Emma didn't notice it until she went to clear the table. Inside was a stack of crisp bills, far more than any normal tip. Her hands trembled as she counted the money, her mind racing with questions. She ran outside to look for the mysterious man, but he was already gone. The sleek black car she had noticed earlier was nowhere in sight. For the rest of the night, Emma couldn't stop wondering, who was he, and why had he left such a generous tip? The next morning, the diner was buzzing with activity. Emma tied on her apron and began her shift, still thinking about the homeless boy she had helped just a few days ago. She hoped he had found a safe place to rest, but her focus quickly shifted back to the customers filing in for breakfast. Around midday, the diner's door swung open, and a tall, sharply dressed man entered. His tailored suit and polished shoes stood out among the casual diners. Emma didn't notice him at first as she was busy taking an elderly couple's order. But when the hostess approached her, whispering that the gentleman at the table had requested her as a server, Emma glanced over in surprise. At first, she didn't recognize him, but when their eyes met, a strange sense of familiarity tugged at her. The man smiled warmly, his gaze lingering on her as if he were studying her. Emma shrugged off the odd feeling and approached his table, her notepad and pen in hand. "Good afternoon," she said, her usual friendly tone. "What can I get you today?" The man hesitated for a moment before replying, "I'll take the special of the day, but only if you promise to take a break and join me for coffee later." Emma blinked, caught off guard by his request. "Oh, I'm sorry, but I don't usually take breaks during my shift," Emma replied politely. "Is there anything else you'd like with your order?" The man chuckled softly. "Just the special for now," he said, handing her the menu. As Emma walked away, she couldn't shake the feeling that something about him was different, like he knew her, but was choosing not to say so. As the meal progressed, the man observed Emma closely. He saw how she treated every customer with patience and kindness, no matter how busy or stressful things got. She carried trays with ease, smiled at even the grumpiest diners, and checked on every table to make sure the guests were satisfied. To him, it was clear. Emma wasn't just hardworking, she was extraordinary. When it was time to pay, the man reached into his wallet and pulled out a credit card. But as Emma turned to leave, he stopped her. "Wait," he said, his voice firm yet kind. "There's something I'd like to ask you." Emma paused, tilting her head curiously. "Yes?" "Do you remember helping a homeless boy on the street last week?" he asked. Emma's eyes widened in surprise. "Yes, I do," she replied. "How do you know about that?" The man smiled knowingly. "Let's just say I saw something that day, a young woman who went out of her way to help someone in need. I was impressed by your compassion." Emma blushed, feeling slightly embarrassed. "It was nothing really," she said, shrugging. "He needed help, and I just did what anyone should do." "Not everyone would have done what you did," the man said firmly. "Most people would have walked by without a second thought." He handed her a folded piece of paper along with the bill. "This is for you," he said. "Open it after I leave." Emma stared at the paper, confused but too polite to refuse. She watched as the man stood, gave her one last smile, and walked out of the diner. Her curiosity got the better of her, and she quickly unfolded the note. Inside was a check for $50,000, far beyond what she could have ever imagined. Beneath the staggering amount, there was a handwritten message. "Your kindness has inspired me. Use this to create the future you deserve. A grateful stranger." Emma's heart raced as she clutched the check. Her hands trembled, and she ran outside, scanning the street for any sign of the man, but he was already gone. Her mind swirled with questions. Who was he? Why had he given her such an unbelievable gift? And why did he seem so familiar? In the following days, Emma's life began to change. With the money from the check, she paid off her debts and started saving for her dream of opening a small cafe where anyone, including the homeless, could find a warm meal and a welcoming smile. Yet despite the relief the money brought her, she still couldn't shake the thought of the man who had given it to her. One evening, as Emma was walking home from the diner, a sleek black car pulled up beside her. The window rolled down, and there he was, the generous stranger from the cafe. "I hoped I'd find you," he said, grinning. Emma stopped in her tracks, her heart pounding. "You again," she exclaimed. "Why did you give me that money? Who are you?" The man stepped out of the car, his expression serious yet kind. "I owe you an explanation," he said. "My name is Nathaniel Hale. I'm the CEO of Hale Enterprises. Emma's jaw dropped. Hale Enterprises was one of the biggest companies in the country, and Nathaniel Hale was a well-known billionaire. I didn't tell you who I was because I wanted to see how you'd react, he continued. I've spent years building wealth, but I've never seen anyone as selfless as you. Helping that homeless boy wasn't just an act of kindness, it showed who you truly are. Emma was speechless, struggling to process everything. But why would someone like you care about me? I'm just a waitress, she said softly. Nathaniel smiled. You're far more than that. You have a heart that money can't buy, and I believe the world needs more people like you. He handed her an envelope. This is a deed to a small cafe downtown. It's yours now. Consider it an investment in someone who deserves it. Emma's eyes welled up with tears. She tried to refuse, but Nathaniel insisted. Just promise me one thing, he said. Keep being the person who inspired me. Keep helping others. From that day forward, Emma's life transformed. Her cafe became a haven for those in need, just as she had always dreamed. And though she never fully understood why fate had brought Nathaniel Hale into her life, she knew one thing for certain. Kindness, no matter how small, could change the world.